Hi everyone, welcome to Disposable Entertainment. I'm Lee, your host, and I'll be giving you my honest thoughts as to was Alan Wake that good? As Alan Wake 2 was announced, I thought I'd take another dive into the world of Alan Wake to see if it still stands up. For the best advantage, I'm playing the remastered version. This is the way people should play it now, so I've taken this route. If you want to go old school, you can still buy the original release on Steam. Welcome to the world of Alan Wake.
I've always had a vivid imagination, but this dream unsettled me. It was wild and dark and weird, even by my standards. So yes, it began with a dream. Following a typical nightmare pattern, I was late, desperately trying to reach my destination, a lighthouse. For some urgent reason, I couldn't remember. I'd been driving too fast down a coastal road to get there. I'd seen the hitchhiker too late. He was dead. I was convinced they'd put me in jail and I would never see Alice again.
Alan Wake was developed by Remedy Entertainment, and I think they dedicated their hearts and souls while scripting and writing the story, as there was never anything like this before and has never been anything close to this after it was released. Remedy are the same people that brought us in later years the very underrated Quantum Break and the absolutely fantastic Control, to which I hold a very strong position over. Alan Wake is set in a fictional Bright Falls in Washington. Our protagonist is a successful author said to have a well-deserved vacation with his wife Alice in said town, but things turn sour very quickly as what he has written turns real and he has to figure out how to end his own story. A simple plot for such a groundbreaking game. A game that's been with us for 12 years and still stands up to any horror thriller video game in recent times. I've been a big fan of Alan Wake for many years, but haven't played it again in what seems like ages. Let's see if the remaster holds up, and if the game still has the charm, scares, twists and tension it had when it was first released all the way back in 2010. That's more than 12 years ago. This game is such a legacy that it's almost become a must-play game for people on any platform where it's available. Firstly, I'll go through the cons. Seems weird to speak about cons in such a well-beloved and classic game, but let's face it, even if any game gets a 10 out of 10, it's still not perfect. That's why I don't believe in a perfect 10 out of 10 score for almost anything. Even if a game is practically perfect, there are always one or two things that could have been done better. But let's not get into this. I could go on for days about no game deserves a perfect 10 out of 10 score. A small gripe I have with this title is the QTEs. It's such an early 2010s thing, and by being fair, the game was released in that time period. But we're not here to discuss then. We're here to speak about now and if the game holds up over time. The QTEs weren't too invasive, but when you get to a couple of generators, it's almost a given that there will be an enemy waiting for you as soon as you get to start the QuickTime event. It doesn't happen all the time, but it happens enough that I would rather look for enemies first before turning on the generator. Another gripe is that enemies will appear out of nowhere behind you, and sometimes it's impossible to dodge, especially playing with mouse and keyboard. I played Alan Wake with the mouse and keyboard the first time I played it, so I wanted to relive it as I had originally. What I really didn't like at some times was Barry Wheeler, who is Alan's agent. He's really a fun guy and adds a bit of humor, But at times it seems that he doesn't even notice all the carnage that Alan's going through while he's just mustering on about irrelevant things. Later on in the game he helps fight enemies, so I find no reason why he can't help all the way through when he's around in your vicinity. But the most irritating thing about Alan Wake is the fact that you face only 4 or 5 kinds of enemies. The smaller dark guys, which are easy to kill, the larger guys that take longer to stun after shining your flashlight on them and take more rounds to kill. Then there's enemies that teleport, which I actually enjoyed a lot. They just added a different element to which would have been just mowing down enemies. There are possessed trucks and machinery, which I found quite lame. I'm sure they could have rather had a bigger dark eye to be a boss instead of machinery that gets possessed. I understand that they didn't want to make big monsters, but fighting a big truck or harvester is just a little nonsensical and almost comical. But the worst and most irritating enemies are the birds. Sometimes you have no idea where they are until they've given you damage. Okay, yes, it's not much damage, but it still sticks out to me. Whenever I'd get on a bridge or open area on top of a hill, you know the birds are coming, and I hated it. I don't remember disliking the birds from playing the game so many years ago, but on my latest playthrough, which you're seeing now, made me realize some of the lazy enemy design and almost obvious enemy placement. When you see a whole bunch of ammo and batteries, you know there's a fight around the corner. It almost takes the edge off of any scare that you might have had if it wasn't placed like that. But Alan Wake is not only about the bad, it's about the good too. The storytelling is top-notch and can rival almost any game released in today's times. There's televisions and radios all over the town to watch what's going on and to hear what the townsfolk are up to. I love the television segments where you firstly get to watch these twisted segments akin to the Twilight Zone of old, which later start showing what Alan Wake, has done. It seems a bit confusing, but makes sense later on in the game where you are shown exactly what happened to you. I know I spoke about bad enemy design, meaning I wanted more variety, but the combat is great. Shining a flashlight on an enemy and hearing the burst of evil die out is so satisfying, knowing you are about to blow them apart with your small, yet perfect amount of weapons you have to destroy your enemies with. For around half the game, you're equipped with a standard flashlight, but later on are given a flashlight with longer battery life, which is a blessing at some points. My favorite is the larger flashlight that you find later, which has bigger battery life and a stronger gaze of light to weaken your enemies quicker. Your other weapons are a pistol, which I played most of the game with. It shoots fast and reloads just as fast. The shotgun is very powerful, but only has 2-round capacity, which I absolutely despise. You get a hunting rifle, which is great for long distance shots and slightly less powerful than the shotgun, and has a bigger ammo capacity compared to the shotgun. From there we're served with flares, which can be burned to shine light on multiple enemies, a flare gun that destroys close enemies, and flashbangs that are beautiful to watch eviscerate all enemies in its path. The weapon choices are few, but serve the whole game perfectly. There's a part in the game where you have no weapons and only a flashlight. This was tense, as you have to preserve your batteries while still staying alive. I found those scenes intense and quite scary. Bright Falls is nicely sized and never overwhelming. The town is clearly a small place with a very small population. I prefer that over any open world game any day of the week. The fact that there are no fast travel points, so that I know I've searched everywhere for what I might need on my journey. Every now and then, you're given a vehicle to travel in. This is fun as hell, as you can drive over your enemies with a big thud, knowing you have pummeled them to the ground. Sometimes when I would get into a vehicle, I would look for as many enemies as possible just to run them over. It's very, very satisfying.
I wrote a horror story that has come true. Thomas Zane did the same in the 70s.
You will go no further.
If I continue like the Dark Presence wants me to, the story I'm writing won't save Alice. It's a horror story. No one will survive.
Alan Wake is set up into 6 chapters, as if reading a book or even watching a television show. The end scenes and beginning scenes to each chapter are great, as they remind you what has just happened so that you don't forget a thing if you had to play chapter by chapter in different gaming sessions. But my honest opinion is to binge the game. Binge watching has become part of our culture these days, which wasn't really a thing when Alan Wake was developed. The reason I say you should binge the game is so that you feel completely immersed in this crazy town. The story is written so well that the time you end a chapter, you'll feel the need to just carry on and see what happens next. A lot of games do this, but not as many games pull it off as well as Alan Wake does. The story is your typical fare. Girl goes missing and you must do anything in your power to save her. But as you go along, the world gets more and more twisted. I applaud the writers and placement of Alan's voiceovers to keep you up to speed on what's going on and what to do. Not that it's really necessary for the narrative, but it fits in so well with the setting of the game. After playing for around 10 minutes, you really do start to feel as if you're the protagonist. Alan is voiced by Matthew Perretta. His execution is damn near perfect, with whom you might recognize him as Dr. Casper Darling in Control and many other films, games, TV shows. He really does steal the show. Yes, I know he's the main character in the game, but his voice acting is second to none in this. The entire story can be finished in around 6 to 10 hours, and almost double that if you want to find all the hidden items strewn across Bright Falls, not counting the DLC, which I'll follow up in another video. What I really enjoyed is that there are no weapon or personal upgrade areas. You get what you get and you must deal with it. It makes it very restrictive, but realistic in a sense, even though it's in a science fiction horror setting. And also what I found is that most tend to take upgrades way too far and are sometimes terribly confusing and time consuming. It makes the game flow much smoother and feel more as if you're walking in Alan's shoes from start to finish. No fluff or extra customization or upgrades. To me, this makes the adventure seem more pure and to the point. I could go on for hours about this absolutely amazing game, but I don't want to spoil anything for anyone that might have missed it in 2010 and has only just picked up the remaster. This new version is beautiful in every way. The forests that you spend a lot of time on are dark and dreary. You don't see much of the town during the day, but what you do see is breathtaking, even for a simple remaster on such an old game. Well, the question is, was Alan Wake that good? 100% definitely. Sure, there are areas that haven't aged very well mechanically, but the overall experience is a sight to behold. I don't rate games on a score system, but I'll definitely say that Alan Wake is a must-play for anyone interested in a good storytelling, great combat, and still such great visuals. Let me know in the comments what you thought of Alan Wake, and if you're gonna pick up the sequel. For me, the sequel is a day one buy, and if it's set in the same way as the original, I'll be binging through the chapters without a doubt. Thank you so much to everyone that stayed to the end. If you've not played Alan Wake yet, make sure for it to be one of your next purchases. It's cheap and definitely well worth it. If you liked this video, please give it a like, a comment, or even subscribe. But for now, we'll see you in the next episode of Was It That Good?